Eli Lev, I think we're live. We never know. We've always got this latency time. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. That was latent? I don't
Good?
know if this how this is going to go. Was that good? We're good. We're all set. It's all gonna be
Great.
fine. Um, so I'm super excited to talk to you tonight about music as a business. I've watched you, I guess, coming on now for about 2 years. I'm going to guess, roughly, maybe a year and a half to 2 years. And I've been so impressed with the way that you approach your music and your career. So tonight we're going to talk about five of the principles that you use within your own career, and in fact, which you teach to others, because you actually have a music business consultancy. Would you call it a firm?
I wouldn't call it a firm. I'm just consulting here
Just
and there
consulting. Mhm.
to some good folks. So yeah, it's not quite a firm yet, but definitely
Okay,
get a lot of joy out of it.
good stuff. Okay, well, tell you what. How has lockdown been for you? So before we kind of go into these five principles, because I feel like, I mean, so just to give everyone some context, you and I actually did this podcast before lockdown, and I had a couple of weeks because I'm sorry, folks, I'd sometimes record a few things in advance, um, but oh wait, review, there we go. And what happened was lockdown happened, and then it was put on the back burner, not knowing how long it would go for. And then we've started taking the podcasts live on Facebook. So we thought, why not just redo it, do it with the video, and have the live chat. So lockdown hit, I guess, mid-March. All live shows have been cancelled, but you have been taking your shows online. So how have you been doing through all of this?
Yeah, so I kind of just do better by doing things. So when all my shows were canceled, I just like started this like pretty wild live streaming schedule. I did like Facebook personal live stream on Tuesday, Instagram on Wednesday, Twitter on Thursday, Folk Friday on YouTube on Friday, then like Facebook page on Saturday, Patreon on Sunday. So literally, I had one day off a week of live streaming. Um, and I think people appreciated that actually, especially the first month. People really enjoyed kind of tuning in and giving love and stuff. And yeah, I've just been taking the shows online, you could say.
And how's that been going? I mean, in terms of, so you already had a really engaged fan base. So
Yeah, I have
how have
a
you?
yeah, I have a very tight knit kind of engaged fan base, which is awesome. They're amazing, and they really kind of enjoy connecting with me. So just hanging out and stories, and I talk about how I write songs, and of course play my originals and requests. So it's been great. I think in the beginning, people were more receptive because it was a very cool thing, and it was different because people didn't know, like a lot of artists didn't live stream that much. I feel like now I've kind of had to like hone my message and really kind of pick my spots and which social media platforms are the best and what time of day is doing well.
Mhm.
And I think I'm moving more towards a like, a one or two live streams a week kind of thing and making it more of a bigger event than like an everyday thing.
Right. Gosh, and like we actually did a book club a couple of weeks ago, and it was sort of focused around this idea of asking. And I thought it was. I mean, like the book is not necessarily new. The idea isn't new. Amanda Palmer did this TED talk, I think, in 2014 as a guess. I think so. It was a good 6 years ago or so, and then wrote a book about it. And a lot of artists that I've been speaking to sort of have been struggling with asking for money in exchange for their art during this time, because I think it's sort of this idea that you're asking for tips, and it feels to some it feels like charity,
Yeah.
which it isn't. But it's sort of us getting used to this idea of our art having value. Is that anything that is that something that you've been grappling with during this time, or?
Well, I think it's a mind shift. I think
Mhm.
artists have problems promoting themselves. I think artists have problems asking. I think artists have problems like just doing anything that seems salesy or marketing because it's about the purity of the art and the music.
Yeah.
But it's never really been that way, I don't think, ever in the music kind of community. And even like old bards and poets would recite the stories, that were part of the culture and like, sing the songs that the court wanted or like,
Yep.
popular music and music is in service to the masses. So
Hmm.
on one end, like I totally get it because we've been taught as artists like your music should stand alone and it should speak for you and just let it'll take care of you and like it will, but um, we really need the support of people and of a community. And if people find value in our music, then we should definitely kind of like respect that and be okay if they're willing to give that value back to us, whether that's
Yeah.
monetarily or whether it's a share or whether it's a like, whether it's a comment, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a Venmo tip. There's tons of ways
Hmm.
that can happen.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, and it's really a give and take. I think, you know, like the more I give, the more other folks feel like giving. So really, it's a give and give, not,
Yeah.
not a give and take. So yeah, it's been like almost like you could say like a spiritual journey towards being in a place where I'm confident in myself and my art that I know I provide value to folks, and it's okay if
Hmm.
they want to give value back.
Yeah. And something that you said that I feel like we may have spoken about um, on a personal level. I'm not sure if we've ever discussed this in a podcast, but this idea of, what musicians used to do in the sense of they were the news source. They would go from town to town and they would tell the news from the next town via song,
Yeah.
where they were sort of the jesters. So there was sort of an entertainment value, but there was also a very useful aspect of it. And in the
Yeah, and
same
I
sense
think
as social justice songwriters, I guess, do now, or certainly did, in the '60s and so on.
right, right, and I mean, I think that all that thought might have come from the '60s, where it was like, if you signed for a record label, you like sold out, or like folk music being pure. But all those artists like sold millions of records, and they were all like really happy to do record contracts, and they've gone on and sold out stadiums and tours, and they have no problems. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
No, no.
making a living from music. So I don't know. I really don't know like where that comes from, or if there's any like artist police out there. And if I
Yeah.
can be really honest, I'm going to be brutally honest. I'm sorry.
I love some
Most
brutal honesty.
most of the people that give you crap as an artist for
Hmm.
like putting your music out there are the folks that wish they were doing what you
Yeah.
were doing and wish they were that confident enough to stand up for their music and their craft. Not that their
Yeah.
craft is bad, not that they're, you know what I mean, that it doesn't have a chance, but like to be able to have that confidence in yourself and your music and your craft to just be like, this is good enough to get out there in the world. I'm going to ask people to share and like it and give back value if they appreciate it. And I'm going to, spend, you know, some of that back to, extend that reach out into the world. I think that's more than okay and what your music deserves as an artist. So,
You're absolutely right. I think there was even a piece in the book where she talks about the time when she was sort of standing on a statue and people would shout at her, go and get a job or go and get a real job or whatever. And, even standing as a statue, it's sort of very symbolic or iconic in a way. But, people, often musicians tell me that they go home for Thanksgiving and like, have you got a job yet? Or you're still doing the music thing? And it's, so I think we get shamed because we're sort of following our passion. And
yeah.
yet, it's from these people that often wish they had followed their own.
Yeah, and so like every time that happens, you can be like, you know what, I'm doing this for you. Whether maybe you have some resistance to it, but because you have resistance means that there's something that I'm doing that, you know, that you wish happened or that like you're secretly like wish, could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's I saw the TED Talk from Amanda
Mm-hmm.
Palmer and it was great. I haven't read the book, but a lot of the principles in her TED Talk were in the book, so I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I would just stick to the TED Talk. Yeah, she just elongates it out.
Okay.
Long book. So Eli, let's talk about music as a business.
Yeah.
So I love the way that you are so open about how you treat your music career as a business, and quite frankly, we all should. There is that is absolutely how we should do it, but a lot of people don't necessarily kind of think of it quite in a very like structured format as you do. So let's talk about the five principles of music as a business that we have come up with tonight, or that you have
Happy
come
to.
up with. I'm not taking any credit for this.
Yeah, no, happy to. Am I super pixelated right now?
Um, it got better.
It
Yeah,
got better?
pixels. Yeah, you're a wee bit. It's a bit blurry with them.
Can I try and come back on the call in a better way? Are you still going to be here? If I leave and come back, can you still continue or
Oh,
no?
well, we're live.
Oh, we are live. Okay.
We're
Don't want to
live.
do that
It's
then.
the live thing. Yeah, because otherwise
Okay.
it'll just be me, and that
But
wouldn't be
that's
so exciting.
okay, no worries. I'm gonna keep on trucking then.
Mm.
So yeah, we've got five principles that we kind of talked about before the our conversation tonight, and our first one was pretty much like finding my voice and my story as an artist.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna kind of say this. I'm gonna talk about this in like the first person rather than like the third person, the second person. Like you need to do this or you need to do that because I don't know. I'm just gonna talk about from my own experience and what happened in my artistic journey, and then people can kind of take that as they want. Does that make sense? Awesome. So the first part of my artistic journey was like, how do I want to set this up? Like, how do I want to do this? Do I want to pitch my music to major labels? Do I want to, go out there and find a manager? Like, how do I want to set up my path? And I made a decision very early on that I wanted to stay as grassroots and as authentic and as connected as possible to my listeners, to my community. So that was a decision I made early on, and ever since then, that's been part of my whole kind of like thing as an artist and as a musician and as a creative. And I think that's really important as an artist early on, not necessarily to make a decision like that, but something like, am I really into graphics? Is graphics going to be part of my story? Am I really into, you know, um, kind of like fan participation? Like, do I really want people to like get into my media?
Yeah.
Am I a songwriter? Maybe I'm a songwriter and I don't want to do the whole YouTube thing, and I just want to write songs for people. And
Mhm.
maybe I'm going to go to Nashville and do that. So I think that's like an ever changing thing. Um, but I think it's really good to like really dial in and be like, who am I going to be? Because the more you like niche yourself, actually, the better. Um, the more like the more I like found my way as okay, I'm a adventure indie folk artist who does international tours and involves my community. The more people responded to that. So that was a huge thing for me
Mhm.
right out of the gate.
So yeah, defining your message, I think another way that you had like sort of phrased it to me before, and I thought that was really that, and that's really key. I think knowing who you are and feeling confident enough to say this is who I am, and like by knowing who you are, you know who you can target effectively as your demographic.
Exactly. Like I would have a much better time targeting like specific artists who I looked up to and thought my music was closer to, rather than being like, if people like singer-songwriters, they'll probably like me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had much more success in really kind of honing in, who my audience is, and there's really good practices. Like I've heard like people talk about like thinking about your ideal fan or your fan avatar, or like who is that person, you know what I mean, that you're singing to. That could be a really good practice. It was for me. I
Mm-hmm.
realized that I was singing to somebody who's like socially conscious, kind of like on some sort of spiritual path, understood the beauty in nature, and really enjoyed meaningful lyrics. So those were like kind of like some characteristics of people that I figured out were coming to the shows and really involved in the music.
Mm-hmm. So those were kind of your cornerstones, if you like.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that happens more and more. So I just started doing music, I think, it was like maybe 4 years ago. So I really had to play a lot of catch up. So I played as out as much as I could and really just kind of like tried to supercharge my growth as a musician. So I was able to try and catch on really quick on who the people were who were coming out to the shows and who enjoyed the music.
Mm-hmm. And just on that, and I do want to move on to the other principles, but just in terms of when you said, you started 4 years ago, I know you were a high school teacher before. And the last time we spoke about this podcast, and I said, how did you start? And you said, well, I just kind of, I started getting out there and I started playing all of the gigs that I could. And the way that you described that, I remember sort of being really in awe of the way that you had approached it. And it was, I'm going to do all of the gigs that I can, and I'm going to get as uncomfortable as possible so that I can learn and push through that.
Yeah, I mean, another big part of my story is that, I used to be an eighth grade language arts teacher. I taught overseas for some time, had experience with a variety of other cultures, and bringing those cultures into my music has been part of that growth. But the reason why I feel like I was able to kind of just dive in is because, I've been traveling a lot and overseas, and like jumping into a new culture, it's a completely humbling experience. You know what I mean? You're just like, I know nothing about this. You know what I mean? So I just have to listen and just pay attention and learn. So that's what I did my first year playing, 4-hour bar gigs to, corporate, the corporate folks who were just coming in for a happy hour and could care less about the music and just want a good beer. I don't blame them. You know what I mean? They aren't there for the music, but there I was in the corner, like trying to play my songs. But
Yep.
those shows really, taught me a lot, and just kind of diving in and putting myself out there was actually a great way to kind of supercharge my growth as a musician.
Yeah. Playing for people that don't want to, that are not necessarily there for you is a really hard and a good
You
lesson as a
should do
musician.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, yeah. The number of gigs I've done like that, and you play to just the barman often.
I know.
Awkward.
Yep.
So, number two.
It's a,
Let's
it's a
let's head
rite of
on to number
passage.
two.
It's a rite of passage. Yeah. Oh, can you hear me? Am I back? Hello?
I
Hello?
don't. I'm
Hello?
sorry. I
Hello?
can hear you. Yes, you're back. We're good.
Okay.
All set. We're having some connection issues here for some particular reason. So, should we head on to number two?
Yes, let's do this. Do you know what number 2 is?
Creating your community, Eli.
That's exactly what it is. Number 2 is creating a community. For me, it was creating my community, and it was really just like my friends and family. To be honest, that's the first fans that I had, and so connecting with them and talking with them and being like, listen, I'm gonna do this thing, and I'd really love it if you were there with me throughout this process. That would be amazing. And then some of them being like, sure, some of them being like, no thanks. And that's totally cool. It doesn't mean that the no thanks people didn't love me or didn't want to see me succeed. It was just that at that moment, they were like, we'll support you in other ways. Just do your thing, we'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it started with friends and family, and then like that first show comes where like you've got like I have like my first fan that I don't know before the show. That's like an amazing feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, you're not my friend, you're not my family, but you really like my music, and now we're
Yeah.
like kind of hanging out. This is cool. And then building on that and just kind of like starting kind of like a family feel. I call it my inner circle. So having an inner circle
Mm-hmm.
has been
Mm-hmm.
really helpful to me. Just going back there and connecting with them and getting their help along the way. So yeah, community to me has been huge, and like just kind of like finding the right way forward and getting feedback when I need it most.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned your community and your inner circle. So you have Eli Lev's Inner Circle, and that is a Facebook community group that you've started for your sort of top tier fans, if you like.
Yeah, technically it's my Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
So my Patreon page has a Facebook group that goes along with it. So it's like two live streams a month, a song and a video every month, or I have different tiers in my Patreon community. But that is also a Facebook group called My Inner Circle. When I did my Kickstarter last the end of last year to start kind of like raising funds for my last album, Deep South. Um, those folks were also I also invited those folks to my inner circle. So really everybody in my inner circle right now are people who've supported me on Kickstarter or Patreon as well.
Yeah, and in fact, because I think that's how I ended up in your inner circle,
I think
was
so.
yeah,
Yeah.
mhm, supporting your album
Yeah.
as a Kickstarter. And speaking of which, so in terms of creating your community, that's one way that you've been able to fund your albums. You've already sort of had this um, group of super fans that you've said, hey, I'm doing this album, and they've been supporting you and not just sort of monetarily but also encouraging you towards it. They're really kind of into the process. They want to hear the behind the scenes stuff. They're really all in for your
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah. So my inner circle helped me with my logo, helped me with deciding what my Kickstarter would be, helped me decide the tiers of my Kickstarter and Patreon as well. They helped me with design for videos, and they even helped me create a music video. My Chasing Daylight video was a bunch of folks in my community. So yeah, it's a really cool process, kind of like going along with them.
Mm-hmm. And that's great that you take their feedback and you can sort of so easily kind of ask for it versus sort of thinking that you know best. It's like, hey, you're my fans. What do you want?
Yeah, I mean, it also takes some pressure off me as an artist, always thinking that I know exactly what everybody wants. Like, instead, I can just ask and they can kind of like guide me. In the end, of course, it's, my decision and my say and I can make the call, but I definitely appreciate that input. And I definitely welcome it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So number three, building your systems.
Yes, building your systems. Wow, I remember when I started making my team, folks that were going to help me with PR, Ariel Hyatt at Cyber PR, she was awesome. People that were going to help me distribute my music, Creative Entertainment Network out of New York, they've been awesome. Deciding who my producers were going to be, House Studios in DC and Jeff Gruber in Silver Spring, Maryland. Finding who my photographer was going to be, Eric Brown out of Maryland, and just like creating all the people that were going to support me in creating this art. And they're all really good people, and I feel super, super lucky that they're
Mm-hmm.
part of my team.
And when you say sort of building your systems, you mean in terms of all of your projects, not necessarily sort of just the album, but longer term in terms of your Facebook community group, your anyone who's I don't know if you have an intern at the moment, but certain things like that. Also, we talking about your I think we'll come on to automating your business in terms of like your MailChimp and so on and so forth. But yeah, you kind of mean all of the aspects that go into um, building those systems.
Yeah, I think the team was actually like the first part of that for me, because once I was able to get the
Mm-hmm.
photos and create the music and create the videos, like all that stuff kind of led to me being able to create, a mailing list sequence, or create, a Facebook ad campaign, or, use my single art on a YouTube video. So all those kind of things really helped in setting that up. And now I've got a kind of very detailed, complex kind of network of systems that all kind of connect with each other, bring in a constant kind of flow of new listeners, and kind of bring those listeners into closer and closer into the community, So it's like kind of like the more value that I'm able to give, the more value they want to give
Hmm.
as well. So yeah.
That's an interesting idea about, how to develop your new listeners in and sort of funnel them into that super fan category. Um, Tell me about how you did that or what your sort of thought process was to get there.
Sure. So I set up probably like the basic version of my systems like that. Maybe like I think right when I started music, I started my Patreon page. So um, before I released my first album, All Roads East, I wanted to make sure I had 50 patrons. And so that was my goal. I reached 50 patrons and I released my album first to them. For my second album, Way Out West, I did the same thing and my goal was 100 patrons. So I reached 100 patrons and released my album. So I had started kind of this inner circle um, aspect of my music career. Then I kind of got in touch with a company called Modern Musician, led by Michael Walker. He's an amazing kind of music visionary. He's got like a business mind, but he's also been in a band that's toured the world and definitely had a lot to teach me. So through Modern Musician, I was able to connect like my closest inner circle to like the broad like everyday listener, and I was able
Hmm.
to figure out how to bring listeners like through step by step to that inner circle community. So I had some like pieces before that, but Modern Musician really kind of helped me understand how to move fans from just never hearing my music to hearing my music to wanting to connect more, getting on live streams, and then eventually, hopefully, being in my inner circle.
Hmm. Awesome. Okay. So moving on to number four, automating your business.
Aha. Yes. So
Hmm.
now, literally, while I'm sleeping, people are listening to my music in India, Indonesia, like the UK, Argentina. People are, checking out my YouTube videos worldwide. People are purchasing introductory items on my funnel that's set
Hmm.
up through my website. Folks are, reviewing my live streams that they weren't able to catch. So literally while I sleep, my systems are working, which is awesome. So I could take a vacation and they'd still be working. I can just check in and make sure everything's going well. So that's that constant kind of like new listenership and new people who are being
Yeah.
connecting to my music, which is awesome. It's a great feeling. And I wake up every day and there's usually like a message on Instagram that's like, oh my gosh, I just saw your song, it's incredible, like thank you for making it. Or I'll get a Facebook review that says like, last night's live stream was awesome, just what I needed to get through the week. And I have like this little document, it's called my live stream good vibes document, where I put all the little things in and check in with that every morning to see that music is making a difference in people's lives, which is pretty awesome.
That's a really interesting, and it's a great idea. And does it sort of, I don't want to use the word validate, but I'm going to say reaffirm your self-belief
Oh,
and
totally.
not only
Oh,
in yourself, but in the world.
yes. Oh, it totally validates every single like second minute that I've like spent working, you know what I mean, and like toiling on this craft. It's like, okay, so that entire 4 month period of writing a song and going to a recording studio and getting all those people together and really toning it in and getting everything super right, that piece of art like connected deeply with somebody, and for
Mhm.
them to reach out to me after hearing that and tell me about that is even more awesome. So
Yeah. Um, I love this idea that you can kind of step away from the factory floor, if you like, and it's all still going on.
yeah. Yeah.
That sort of idea of like the cog still going type thing.
Right. So, for example, I have like, I have just Instagram story ads going, and that leads to my Spotify for people to
Mm.
listen, which effectively organically bumps my YouTube growth up because they hear the song and they go and look on YouTube for more videos.
Yeah.
Um, I have a Facebook Messenger kind of system that's set up so that people message my Facebook page, and I kind of see if they're ready to join my free community. It's called the Levitators. They're an awesome bunch of
That's
folks.
great. I
Get
feel like
it?
I had something to do with that.
Levitators? I feel like you did too. I
Yeah.
feel like you did too. Um, yeah, so they're that's awesome. That's like a really cool community that I check into. And I schedule my posts in a lot of, those communities. So literally I can just start the week, spend an
Mhm.
hour in making sure that I give that value and connection to the community. Then I can just check in whenever I'd like
Yeah.
throughout the week and give that back.
And it's this idea that we can, one, we can set ads, two, we can schedule our posts. And I think for me, there was sort of always that guilt of, I felt that things should sort of be liked organically. But that's bullshit, quite frankly. We need to set, but that was sort of my thinking a few years ago. I was like, well, if it's a
Yeah,
good song, it'll do well by itself. And that's just
right.
total crap these days.
Yeah.
As it was probably then also. But,
I feel like it's always been
so
like
it's,
it's I don't really know. Bob Dylan, Blowing in the Wind, the only reason that song is part of our like national storybook is because 12, 13 other bands covered it. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? People heard other bands, take that song and do it before Bob Dylan, like ever heard Bob Dylan sing that song. Um, and the only reason that happened is because, somebody behind the scenes was pitching this song to other bands and being
right,
like, check out this song. And then they heard another band do it, and so on.
right.
So I feel like it's always been like that. And I feel like, it I don't know. I think it's like just kind of like being able to shed our pride a little bit as creatives and be like, do you like it? And they can say no, and that's totally cool. But if they say
Yeah.
yes, then that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. And I think quite honestly, there's so much crap out there in the music industry that is doing well, not because of how good it is, but because of how much money or who's behind it or
Right.
all of that stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So it's sort of that idea of, good art will just naturally reach the right people isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of
Mm-hmm.
us, coming into this industry just needing to get over this, you know, the wide-eyed view, starry-eyed view that we have of the industry, and just kind of shed that and go, okay, it's time to get to work. This is all of these are the things that I need to do. These are the systems that I need to build, and these are the processes that I need to put in place,
Yep.
and
Yep.
to make it happen. All right, now the last one you had mentioned was building in timely retrospectives.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me on all these points. You're awesome stuff. Um, so another very powerful practice that I have found is taking care of myself
Mhm.
personally as like a mentally, social, spiritual being, and that's very helpful. Is having morning routines and weekly routines and monthly routines, and I call them kind of retrospectives. They could be called other things, but it's really just a chance to like look back and see if my goals happened
Mm-hmm.
and how close to my goals I was and what I could do to actually get to my goals the next cycle, whatever that is.
Yep.
So I have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly retrospective kind of like processes.
Check-ins.
Yes, check-ins.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they've been really great to dial in on, not just the numbers, but like how I'm feeling. Like, did I feel good last week the way that I set up my life?
Yeah.
Am I going the direction that I feel like I need to be going? And sometimes we just need to stop and just kind of like check in and
Yep.
see if that's right. So,
Mm-hmm. I remember the last time we spoke, and I asked you what your daily routine was. So I'm going to ask you to recount that for me, and I'm actually quite curious to see whether it's changed during lockdown.
oh man, yeah, I've kind of upgraded my daily routine a little bit since the last time we talked. So I have a 3 hour morning routine.
It was an
Um,
hour and a half the last time, Eli.
I know. It's 3 hours now. It's nuts.
Wow. Okay. So
Um,
fill me in.
okay, so I'm going to my calendar here. Let's see exactly what I'm doing. So I've got um, 7 a.m. wake up, 7:15 go for a run, 7:35 breakfast, 8:15 shower, 8:30 yoga, 9 o'clock, half an hour of meditation, 9:30, my daily retrospective and get ready, and 10 a.m. Ready to go.
Okay, see, that doesn't sound that bad at all. What did you add
It's
from the one and a
actually it's actually wonderful. It's not
Huh.
work. It's like, it's a leisurely morning, giving myself time to do all the things that I really want to do in the morning. So,
I mean, you're doing a run, yoga, and meditation. I consider those three very separate leisure activities. Leisure,
yes, leisure. I like it when you say leisure. That's
leisure.
better.
Thank you,
I love it.
leisure. And
Awesome.
I would probably like personally, I would go, okay, I would do one of those a day. I wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily think I'll do all three. Like it's
Right.
not sort of, I've never considered that as I
I
can do it all.
No, I did not start with everything. I started with 15-minute jog. Then I
Mm.
added meditation. Then I bumped that up to 30 minutes. And then just started doing yoga in the morning with Miss Megan Lee. So we're on like this 30-day yoga challenge thing. And it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty awesome. So yeah, I got three
Yeah,
hour morning routine going on now.
I envy you, and I need to be better with my own schedule. So
One piece at a time. I took every couple weeks I would add like one little thing to it. So
okay.
I've been working on it for the last probably since January of this
Mm-hmm.
year.
And with lockdown, how has your routine changed? So I mean, not
Uh,
necessarily the morning routine, but just more generally than that.
yeah, no. So interestingly enough, since lockdown, I've had kind of like more time to really work on my routine
Mm-hmm.
because if not, my day's just absolutely nuts. I don't know, like maybe a farmer's market in the morning. Like I'm not going to get up and do like a 3 hour routine before I have to be at a farmer's market at like 8 in the morning. I had a show that lasted until 1 a.m. in the morning, and I got home at 2 because it was in Virginia and I'm in Maryland. Like obviously I'm not going to be able to wake up at 7 in the morning the next morning. So, if anything, I've been really able to kind of like dial it in and keep expanding it with all
Mm-hmm.
this kind of time and space I've got now.
Yeah. Have you found more time for songwriting? Not that you didn't before, but has that been more of a focus?
Yeah, yeah, I would say my co-writing schedule has really kind of taken off, which has been awesome. Um, Jumping on Zoom calls with my favorite musicians has been great, and I try and schedule like two or two or three co-writing sessions every week. So yeah,
Well, I will have to get into your diary. Thank you for that.
yeah. All right, let's schedule it in. I got my
All right.
calendar right here. I got an hour after my 3 hour morning routine.
Oh, you want to do this right now? You want to schedule it now?
Let's do it.
Oh, good Lord. Weekend, please.
Weekend, awesome.
Weekend.
I got you. This Sunday at noon.
Oh, I actually have a live show I'm doing at 1. If
Okay,
we
this
could
Sunday
do
at 3.
that would do nicely. Thank you very much. Putting it in my diary right now,
See
people.
how fun this is?
Yes. Eli co-write. Oh, this will be fun.
See, this is what we
I haven't
do.
done a co-write for a while. Anyway, okay. So now back to these principles. There was something else that we talked about the last time, yay, that I really wanted to bring up because I thought this was really interesting. My dog's sort of just running around. Excuse me. I thought this was really interesting. You were talking about how much you invest in yourself and your music. So, you talked about modern musician. You also talked about PR. Um, I think offline, possibly you potentially talked about voice lessons. I
Yep,
think there were certainly a couple of things that you talked about in terms of these extra things that you were doing to learn to get better as an artist, to get better as a singer, as a musician, and we also talked about the budget that you set aside for those things, and I thought that was really thoughtful and sort of again sort of thinking ahead as to that investment that you would put into a business as you would do yourself.
yeah, I mean, it could be, you could think of it as a investment to your business. You could think of it as an investment to your education. Like, how much do people spend on education in this country in a year to go to university? What is it like?
Yeah, I
10,
don't
20,
know.
30, $40,000, $50,000 it could be.
Mm-hmm.
So if I spend that much amount just to educate myself on music, then kind of like I'm taking my music just as seriously as I am, any other career. So kind of like thinking of it as, yes, a career, and as an education, as business is a great way to be. And your dog is absolutely adorable. Oh my god. Ah, whoa.
Thank you, Shorty.
That was a good one.
Yes. He had a tooth out last week and he's still being quite pathetic about it. So
Oh.
occasionally he needs a cuddle. Okay, so let's run down the list again. So one, we've got defining your music and your message, number one. Number two, creating your community, finding who your ideal person, maybe perhaps you called it your avatar is,
Yeah.
and working towards building that group. Number three, building your systems. And what were we talking about for building your systems again?
Team and
Thank you.
automated systems.
Team and automated systems. And fourth was automating your business.
Yes, that was it. Automated systems.
And finally, building in your timely retrospectives, your personal check-ins with yourself.
That's it. Those are my 5 pillar points of what I'm talking about today.
Eli's 5 pillars.
5 pillars.
5 pillars. Yeah, you could publish a book on this. This could be part of your inventory.
Yep.
Inventory.
Maybe I could do a TED like Z talk. That's like totally not officially sanctioned at all on that.
Here's a question. Is that something you'd be interested in? Is that would that be a goal for you?
Oh yeah, I think I would totally rock the whole that whole scene. You know what I mean? Like get like one of those like super cool like microphones,
or like the skin tone microphones. Yeah.
And just use like a lot of hand gestures and just like do this and then like play a song and people pay me $20,000. I think I'd be great at that.
Yeah, I mean, why not? It's $20,000 for 5 minutes of work. If you don't do a good job, I think that you've got to consider your value there.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to look into that possibility. It'd be great.
Interesting. I would really like to see that because effectively you've just done it, but
effectively,
yeah, effectively.
5 pillars.
Yeah. So Eli, before I let you go, I want to hear a song, please.
Oh.
Would you do me the honor?
I would most definitely do the honor. Do you have a song in particular that you'd like to hear?
I really liked the song that you just put out. I think it was last week, Class of 2020. I thought that was a beautiful wee tune.
Yeah.
Very timely. And in speaking about are you writing songs at the moment? Clearly you are. So
yep.
I would love to hear that song.
Cool. So I wrote this for as a suggestion from somebody in my community. They're like, I'm graduating this year. It's terrible. Can you write a song to like help me and cheer up and maybe send to my classmates as well? So I did, and I sang it to about 500 students in Ohio last week for their for like a graduation kind of like performance online, which was really cool. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, here it is, Class of 2020. It's been a wild and crazy year. You've been working so hard to get yourself here. Late nights of studying and staying up. Early morning gotta get to class and waking up. You deserve a moment to look back in pride. We're here for you, 6 feet away by your side. 'Cause we can't be separate forever. So come on, let's celebrate together. Text your friends, call your family. Congratulations, Class of 2020. I remember when it was my time to say goodbye to all the people who brought me to the next stage of my life. Back in those days we put our arms around each other. Got a pat on the back from my dad and a big kiss from my mother. And even though these are different times, we're still gonna celebrate online. So put on your cap, put on your gown, turn on your favorite song, get down. 'Cause separate forever. So come on, let's celebrate together. Text your friends, call your family, thank your teachers, thank the faculty. Congratulations, class of 2020. Oh yeah, that's my favorite part. Whatever it takes, you're gonna live the life you wanna live. And when the world starts to wake, you're gonna give the hope and kindness that you wanna give. 'Cause we can't be separate forever. So come on, let's celebrate together. Text your friends, call your family, thank your teachers, thank the faculty. We're gonna put on a celebration together at home across the nation. Congratulations. Oh, congratulations, class 2020. Oh,
That was lovely. Oh,
thanks.
I love that. Shorty liked that too. He told me.
Thanks, Charlie.
Eli, thank you so much for joining me. It really is always such a pleasure talking with you. Not only just, we hang backstage, as it were, but
We hang.
yeah, we hang, we're pals. But, I'm so pleased that you are thriving, not only kind of surviving, but you're thriving during this time. And I'm excited to write with you at the weekend.
Yeah, we got our co-write session Sunday at 3. Thanks
All
for
right,
having me
Eli.
on.
Well, you take care. Where can people find you and your music?
Yes, type in Eli, E-L-I, then put a space, and then type in L-E-V on your local Google sheet, and you will find all the things Eli Lev.
All of the things.
And yeah, my website is actually the best place to go because I've got all my music for free there, and you can join my free Levitators community as well on my website, and I have my live stream scheduled there as well. So it's eli-lev.com. That's it.
The Levitators. Shush. All right, Eli, I'll chat to you soon.
Thanks for having me, Steph. This is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we are. Oh, it says still live.
Still